Hi, this is Christine, and here's a condensed version about painting your pet. First thing you want to do is start off with a good photograph, one that has good lighting, like the one I have here that has definite lights and definite shadows. The brushes I'm using here are a combination of medium to small, slants, rounded, and a few pointed ones. As far as the oil paints go, you can pause it here to get the actual names of the paints. But otherwise, I use an assortment. I use reds that go with blues, reds that go with yellows, blues that go with reds, blues that go with yellows, some burnt umber, some terra rosa, and a little bit of orange, and a basic yellow. I could do a whole video just based on paints. As you can see, I'm starting here with acrylic though. I'm using acrylic wash of raw umber and some cobalt blue. And I'm darkening in all the shapes with sort of a wash of oil after the acrylic is dried, of burnt umber, maybe a little bit of orange oxide. As you can see, I'm trying to put all my dark areas in first, showing myself where all the shadows are going to be going. And then eventually, I'll go back and forth from light to dark. Right now, I'm still basically focusing on the dark areas of the painting. The whites of the eyeballs are never really white, especially because they're in the shadows here. Underneath the nose is pretty dark. Later on, I'll be putting black in those areas as well. Right now, I'm still using a thin coat of my paints, and later on, as I put more and more layers on, they'll get thicker and thicker. Now I'm adding some more of those highlighted spots, and I'm going to start in with the lighter area of the fur, but first I want to darken in some major parts of the picture, like that whole side of the face on the left is kind of more in the shadows. So now every time I mix the color of the fur, I'm going to be mixing it with a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of blue, just to make sure it's darker than the lighter parts of the face on the right. The blue area of the collar is a mixture of the primary blue and some ultramarine blue mixed with titanium white, and maybe even a little bit of burnt umber, which is more in the shadowed area. Here I'm starting to put some of that same blue into the fur. Don't be afraid of adding some of the ambient colors that are in your piece into other colors. Just sort of make it live together. Color mixing is really key when you're doing your painting. Sometimes you can mix it on the palette, and a lot of times you'll be mixing it right on the painting, because you really won't know what sits well next to one another until you start adding it to your painting. I do a lot of mine right on the painting, because I can see then, once I lay it on there, what really is working and what isn't. Another key is to make sure you keep your eyes more on your subject than your actual painting, if you really want something to look like what you're painting. Here I'm doing the eyes, and once again, as I have said before in one of my previous videos, is that the eyes are always they reflect on one side where the strongest light is, and then that light passes through the eye and lights up the other side. So it's always the opposite side that takes on a light hue, and always the side that the light is hitting, the direct light is hitting, that has the sharpest highlight. As you can see, that's what I'm kind of doing here. You'll see a lighter part of the brown on the other side of the eyeball, and a darker part right around the lightest part where the light is hitting. Annie has some long eyelashes, but where you could really see them the most is on the left side, where I'm painting in right now. This painting is about 11 by 14 inches, and around the eyes, the brush I'm using is a pointed brush. It's probably about a 2 or a 4 because you need something pretty small. I'm kind of like zoomed in right now on what I'm painting here. I rarely use really, really tiny brushes because I like my painting to have a little bit of an impressionistic effect to it. I don't go in really sharp, tiny detail for the most part. In general, on a painting, probably the most important thing to keep an eye out for is your values. The fur on the left is going to be always mixed with burnt umber or blue or something to keep it a little darker than the fur on the right. And that's about values. No matter what colors you're using, no matter how you're doing it, your values are going to be the most important. It is the most important aspect of your paintings. Something else important to remember is experiment. Experiment, experiment, experiment. Play with your textures, play with your brush strokes, play with your colors. See what works for you. See what brings out your individual style just by doing that, using textures and using colors, using brush strokes. Don't be afraid to use different types of tools either. Use paper towels, which is what I did to give a texture to the background. Use rags, use rough brushes, use palette knives. Whatever you see, whatever you'd like to try, just to see what that does, what that gives your painting, that individual touch. I read somewhere to develop your own style, take 4 or 5 pieces that you love from different artists and think about what it is that you love about each piece and try to start incorporating those things that you love into your own paintings. It's really a good exercise to do. Be observant. Painting is really about seeing. Here I am putting more and more of the fur in, and I'm sticking with this small pointed brush for the most of it. The fur is, I'm trying to give the fur some details, some lights and darks, and there's some darks that sort of fade away around the eye. I wanted to put that in. There'll be a little jumping around here, but I'm going to run through the most of this fairly quickly. If you have any questions later on, if you want to know about anything in particular as you see this, just jot them down and send them to me in the comments, or you can message me. Either way, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you got something out of it. Maybe there's some details or something that you wanted to know about and I didn't put them in here. I would love to do another video and tell you more about that sort of thing. And here is a close-up detail of what I'm doing, how I'm doing the fur that's pointed more toward the light. Some final touches and then I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thank you.